Basic decisions about their futures and their families were made by politicians. But perhaps more important than why we are here today is the reasons we are not. We are not here today because the legal underpinnings of Roe are weak, or because the constitutional right to privacy that encompasses a woman's right to choose is radical or unsupported by our nation's legal history. Quite the contrary, as Gary Daniel you talked about earlier, the right to privacy is a fundamental constitutional right, and its inclusion of a woman's right to choose evolved necessarily from decades of legal precedent. The court has reaffirmed Roe's central holding on multiple occasions throughout the past 41 years, noting in 1992 that the soundness of this analysis is apparent from a consideration of the alternative. Without a privacy right that encompasses the right to choose, the Constitution would permit the state to override not only a woman's decision to terminate a pregnancy, but as Representative Ramos has pointed out multiple times in this committee, her decision to continue a pregnancy to term as well. It is also important to note that since Ohio first considered this bill, 2 other states have passed similar legislation. They were both immediately blocked in court and have never gone into effect. Why again is this body proposing to waste valuable taxpayer funds to defend this clearly unconstitutional bill? I thought the goal of this body was to be good stewards of our tax dollars. This bill is the exact opposite. We are also not here to discuss a law that would protect women's health. Legal abortion is one of the safest medical procedures available. Less than 0.05% of U.S. women who receive abortion care experience a complication that requires hospitalization. Medical research incorporating studies from 21 countries demonstrates that abortion does not increase the risk of major pregnancy complications during future pregnancies or delivery. There is no added risk of infant mortality or having a low birth weight infant, nor is there an increased risk of infertility, ectopic pregnancy, or miscarriage. And despite what people have told this committee over and over throughout all the years I've been here, most adult women who terminate a pregnancy do not experience mental health problems. What this bill is simple. It is a radical ban on abortion that would outlaw the procedure at a point in pregnancy when most women do not even yet realize they are pregnant. This measure would virtually eliminate access to legal abortion in Ohio. It does not even provide exceptions for survivors of rape or incest, or to protect a woman's health, or in cases of fatal fetal abnormalities. This bill is clearly unconstitutional, both as we discussed at the federal level, but also at the state level. It was designed to directly challenge Roe versus Wade. Supporters want to push their extreme agenda all the way to the Supreme Court at the expense of the Ohio taxpayer. But this bill, as I said, is not only in conflict with our federal constitution, it is also violating our state constitution, as amended by State Issue 3 in 2011. Article 1, Section 21B of our state constitution now reads, "No law or rule shall prohibit the purchase or sale of health care or health insurance." House Bill 248 does just that, outlawing abortion once a fetal heartbeat can be detected. Outlawing abortion will not make it go away. We have all heard stories, many of us from people in our own families, of illegal abortions that happened before Roe. Outlawing abortion makes it dangerous. If women are not able to turn to doctors, if they are not able to go to clinics that are inspected by the state of Ohio, where will they go? Who will they turn to? How many of them will be killed or maimed? Who are these women who have abortions? I think this committee should consider that before they take it upon themselves to make the most personal, private medical decisions for them. Roughly 23,000 women access abortion care in Ohio each year. But that isn't the whole story. 60% of the women who choose abortion are already mothers. 90% of them are single. Over 50% of them have not yet been to college. 65% identify as Christians, with 37% identifying as Protestant, and 28% identifying as Catholic. But these women are not just statistics. 1 in 3 women will have an abortion at some point in her life. They are women who raise our children and care for our elderly parents. They pay taxes and they vote. They are our leaders in our churches, our schools, and our government. They are the backbone of our families in our state. And yet the sponsors of this bill do not trust them. Why do I say that? Because if they trusted the women of Ohio as I do, this committee would realize that it does not know about the particular situation of these women to be able to make this decision for them. I appreciate the opportunity for our organization to testify against this dangerous legislation again. And I am disappointed that after 4 years of Ohioans from every corner of the state opposing this bill, that this committee is once again attempting to force its extreme ideology on the people of Ohio. I ask you to vote against House Bill 248. I hope instead to work with lawmakers on both sides of the abortion debate to provide appropriate health care for women to reduce unintended pregnancies. Policies like providing better access to long-acting or reversible contraceptives, or LARCs as they are called, like implants or IUDs. Making sure that all Ohioans have the information and resources they need to prevent pregnancy, and to have healthy pregnancies when they decide to bring a child into their family. We need to pass bills that make people healthier and value the lives and inherent worth of the women of our state. That is a goal we should all agree upon, and one that we can achieve together. I hope this committee sends a clear message that the divisive politics of abortion bans will not be tolerated, and that it trusts women by rejecting House Bill 248 in its entirety. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miracle. Are there questions from witness? Representative Antonio?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here. And as you know, I would like everybody to do something with me before I ask my question. I want everybody to take a deep breath and let it out. Okay, thank you. This is clearly, you know, a highly charged, very personal and emotional issue for a lot of people in this room. I'm not going to talk about sides because I don't believe there are any sides in this issue. It's just an issue that we have concerns about, concerns of personal safety and health. We have concerns of legal ramifications with constitutional law, and we have some concerns along moral grounds for everyone in this room. I think we can all agree. Those are all the ways and the depth, and those are the kinds of things that affect us. We leave our heads behind a little bit, and we go right to our heart when we think about issues like this. And so I think it takes a lot of courage for everyone to then walk into a room in a public meeting such as this and then talk about these things. So I just want to say to everyone that testifies today how much I appreciate the courage that everyone is willing to provide in this room to deal with this issue that we've been struggling with as a country and as a state for a very long time. Longer than all of us, any of us have even been here, I think, on the planet actually. So having said all that, there were two things that you mentioned that I would just like to ask you about. One was the constitutionality of this, and the fact that, can you answer for me, have there been other states that have enacted this and then had a challenge, or where are we at with the constitutionality of this particular legislation?
As I said in my testimony, North Dakota and Arkansas have both passed similar bills. They were both immediately challenged in court, and they were both immediately blocked in that lower court.
Thank you. And follow-up, thank you. And my second question is, I also have concern around the issues of, does this bill in any way address exceptions, issues with regard to rape, incest, and you know, underage children becoming pregnant through sexual assault, and therefore the necessity or the question? If you could answer that.
I'm going to not be able to quote the exact language, but the only exception is when the life of the woman is endangered, or when there is a severe and irreversible physical health problem, I think is the way that the bill says. Those are the only exceptions. So there are a lot of things within a pregnancy. When we talked to doctors about this bill the last time this was up, we had doctors who said this bill would severely hamper them treating pregnant women early when they were having pregnancy complications, because there's a lot of complications that will eventually become severe and irreversible. But if we treat them earlier in a pregnancy, we can reverse it. And that's healthier for the woman because she doesn't have lifelong health consequences because of pregnancy. But because of this bill, and if the doctor in consultation with their patient decided that abortion was the best decision before that point where it was going to be severe and irreversible physical health damage, they would not be able to. The doctor would have to wait until that woman was critically ill enough to fall under the exception of this bill.
One last thought. And I'm not sure if you even know the answer to this, but I know there was a very public case that I think was from Ireland, where there was a medical complication. The woman was not able to have a medical procedure done, and I believe she died. Mm-hmm. Is that the kind of thing that's going to happen?
Along the same lines, I think, I'm remembering most of the details of the case, but not all of them. But yes, I mean, it's the same general idea of what I just talked about. Because in Ireland, abortion is basically completely illegal, or was at that point. I think they've altered their laws a little bit. They had to wait until a fetal heartbeat had stopped. Her amniotic sac had broken, and a infection is highly likely when those kinds of things happen according to medical experts. And so she did in fact get a uterine infection. It spread to her bloodstream, and she got sepsis. And if they had been able to terminate that pregnancy when her amniotic sac had broken and infection had started to set in, that it may not have gotten to that point of sepsis. So that is just the general, a doctor had to wait until it was too far before they could treat the woman, and they were unable to save her.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the witness? Representative Maag.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for your testimony. And I was wondering, does Planned Parenthood have a time when they say this little woman is a woman? Because we just heard from a physician telling us that probably 50% of the babies that are aborted or murdered in their mother's womb are women. And you talk about choice. I would imagine if we went to that little girl and said, would you rather live? Would you rather be born? Would you rather live your life, enjoy and love and enjoy life? They would say yes. They wouldn't say no. They would say yes. So what right do you have to tell anyone that you have to die? Because that is what you're saying.
Well, I'm not from Planned Parenthood, and I do not speak for Planned Parenthood. I will speak for NARAL Pro-Choice Ohio, and as Gary Daniel from the ACLU says, we believe in the legal underpinnings of Roe, and this bill violates those legal underpinnings. And respectfully, I would come back with, what right do you have as a legislator to tell a woman who has decided in consultation with her family, her minister, her friends, her doctor, that having an abortion is the best decision for her and her family because it is protected as a legal right by our Constitution. And that is where we fall on this issue. If a woman decides to continue her pregnancy to term and she wants to have a healthy child, we support that. And we make sure that she has access to the best prenatal care she can have. We were actually one of the only organizations, the Right to Life groups were nowhere to be found when this state wanted to amend our maternity leave policies, because Ohio doesn't guarantee maternity leave for their mothers in this state. So we believe that it is the individual person's right to make decisions about their body and their pregnancy under the legal underpinnings outlined by the Supreme Court in Roe v. Wade and Roe v. Bull.
Just one more. Well, we see things a little differently. Mm-hmm. You're talking about, it is the job of the legislature to protect people. It is our job to protect life. I mean, we pass laws every day. We say that you can't go out and shoot somebody. You can't murder someone. So it is our right. And it is our right to stand up, for the least among us and talk for the weakest among us. And that weakest person is that little woman in her mother's womb that you give no choice to. They have no choice.
Professor Maag, yes, also, we're not gonna go there, all right?
I would like to answer that if I could, though.
You're not gonna go there anymore, okay?
Yes, sir.
I would like to answer that if I could, though.
If your stand, please go ahead, Ms. Miracle.
If you believe that passing this bill will stop women in Ohio from getting abortions, you don't know history. Women had abortions before Roe versus Wade, and if this bill passes and miraculously gets enacted, which it won't because the courts will block it, it will not stop women in Ohio from needing to get abortion care. It will force them to go to other states. It'll force them to turn, as women did before Roe, to back alley, illegal, dangerous practitioners that risk their lives. So, like I said at the end of my testimony, if we really cared about protecting that life, we would come together and we would work on things that would reduce unintended pregnancy. Because if a woman gets pregnant when she wants to get pregnant, barring medical complications of pregnancy and fetal abnormalities, she's going to continue that pregnancy. So if we can reduce the number of unintended pregnancies in the state, we can reduce the number of abortions. This bill will not reduce the number or the need for abortion in the state.